Nobody saw this coming. Not the players, not the fans, and definitely not the front office. What started as a flagrant foul on a basketball court has reportedly spiraled into one of the most talked about brand shakeups in women's sports history. Rumors are flying, social media is on fire, and corporate America may have just sent a message that the WNBA refused to send itself. We're breaking down everything: the on-court incidents that started it, the social media chaos that followed, the whispers coming out of boardrooms, and what it all means for the future of athlete branding in women's basketball. Stick around, because this story has layers that most people aren't talking about. It didn't start in a boardroom. It started on the hardwood, in a moment that millions of people watched on repeat. The flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham became one of the most replayed clips in recent WNBA history. Not because flagrant fouls are rare, but because of what surrounded it. The force of it, the timing, and the complete absence of any visible remorse afterward turned a basketball play into a cultural flashpoint almost overnight. Clips flooded Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube within hours. People who don't even follow the WNBA were watching and reacting. Sports commentators who rarely touch women's basketball were suddenly weighing in. What made it spread so fast wasn't just the foul itself, it was the reaction, or rather the lack of one. Fans expected some form of accountability from the league. They expected a strong statement, a meaningful suspension, something that signaled the WNBA was taking the moment seriously. What they got instead felt, to many, like a shrug. And when people feel like an institution is protecting bad behavior, they don't stay quiet. They go online and they stay there. The comment sections on every major sports platform became a running debate about player conduct, league standards, and what the WNBA was sending to its fan base. Some defended Carrington, arguing the foul was exaggerated in the court of public opinion. Others were furious, calling it part of a broader pattern. But the loudest conversation, the one that would eventually reach corporate ears, was this: if the league won't hold players accountable, who will? That question didn't stay rhetorical for long. Just when the foul conversation was starting to find its natural ceiling, something happened that reignited it completely. A post surfaced attributed to Carrington on Threads that contained the phrase "white privilege," posted in the immediate aftermath of her ejection from the game. 2 words, no context, no explanation, just the phrase, tagged at the Indiana Fever, sitting there for the entire internet to interpret however it wanted. And interpreted they did. Within hours, the post was being screenshotted, quote-tweeted, dissected, and debated across every corner of social media. The dominant reading, the one most people landed on given the timing, was that Carrington was suggesting her ejection for fouling a white player was the result of racial bias. But Carrington never actually said that. She posted 2 words and left the rest to the imagination of millions of people who were already primed to be angry. This is where things got really complicated. Emmanuel Acho addressed it directly in a video that itself went viral. His argument was sharp and worth understanding. America, he said, is a speaker-oriented country. The responsibility to be clear, to be direct, and to give context lies with the person putting words into the public space, not with the audience trying to decode them. When you post something inflammatory to your public platform with 0 context, you don't get to then be frustrated that people ran with the most obvious interpretation. You opened that door. That's on you. He made it clear he wasn't attacking Carrington as a person. He drew the line explicitly, attacked the action, not the individual. But he also made it clear that vague, charged language posted publicly, tagged at another team, in the immediate emotional aftermath of an ejection, is not the behavior of someone thinking carefully about consequences. And in professional sports, consequences have a way of showing up, sometimes from directions you never expected. Carrington eventually responded,
clarifying that she never claimed the foul was called because of white privilege and that people were making assumptions. She even called out the critical thinking skills of those who interpreted her post the way they did. But, and this is the part that stuck, she still never explained what she actually meant. She told people what she didn't mean without telling them what she did mean. And in the world of public relations, that's almost as damaging as saying the wrong thing in the first place. The vacuum of explanation gets filled by speculation every single time. Fox News ran with it, sports radio ran with it, comment sections exploded, and somewhere in all of that noise, brand executives started paying very close attention. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough in sports coverage. Sponsored athletes are not just athletes, they are brand ambassadors. They are walking, talking, playing advertisements for companies that have shareholders, quarterly earnings calls, and carefully cultivated public images. When you sign a sponsorship deal, you are agreeing, explicitly or implicitly, that your public behavior will not become a liability for the people writing your checks. Most of the time, this operates in the background. Athletes get into minor controversies, brands issue quiet statements or say nothing at all, and things blow over. But there are moments when the volume gets too loud, the footage is too viral, and the consumer backlash is too organized for a brand to stay quiet. This, by all accounts, appears to have been one of those moments. Reports began circulating, and it's important to be clear these are reports, not confirmed corporate announcements, that Reebok was internally reassessing its relationship with Carrington following the wave of negative attention. According to rumors spreading across sports media and social platforms, the internal conversation at Reebok shifted significantly once consumer sentiment data started coming in. Brand equity is not abstract. It is measurable. Companies like Reebok have entire teams dedicated to tracking how public perception of their sponsored athletes affects consumer behavior, purchase intent, and brand association. When an athlete becomes the center of a sustained negative viral moment, especially one involving physical aggression and a racially charged social media post, the numbers in those reports tend to move in a direction that makes executives very uncomfortable. According to speculation circulating online, social media users began organizing targeted pressure campaigns aimed at Reebok directly. Comments on Reebok's brand pages, posts tagging the company alongside footage of the foul, and calls to boycott Reebok products unless they addressed their association with Carrington. Whether that pressure reached the scale some accounts suggested is unverified, but the pattern is real and well documented in other brand situations. Sustained, organized consumer pressure on a sponsoring brand's social channels gets noticed internally, and it gets noticed fast. What reportedly happened next is the part of this story that has the sports world buzzing. Let's be completely upfront here. What follows is based on rumors, reports from unnamed sources, and speculation circulating across sports media. None of this has been officially confirmed by Reebok, by Carrington's representation, or by any verified internal source. But the rumors are detailed enough and widespread enough that they're worth walking through carefully.
According to multiple accounts spreading across sports commentary channels and social media, Reebok convened some form of internal review of the Carrington partnership following the viral foul and the subsequent social media controversy. The picture being painted by these reports is of a brand that had been watching the situation build for weeks and had reached a threshold where staying silent was no longer a neutral position. It was a choice that itself carried reputational risk. The alleged decision, according to these rumors, was termination of the sponsorship deal. Not a suspension, not a warning, a full termination, with her marketing materials pulled and her signature footwear concepts shelved. Again, Reebok has not officially confirmed this. Carrington's team has not officially confirmed this. This is the version of events being discussed online, and it should be treated as such.
But here's where the story gets genuinely extraordinary, if the rumors are to be believed. The speculation doesn't just stop at a termination. The narrative circulating online goes further, suggesting that Reebok didn't just drop Carrington, but almost simultaneously pivoted to approach Caitlin Clark about a potential deal. The suggestion is that the same budget, or something close to it, was redirected almost immediately toward the Indiana Fever rookie who has been shattering WNBA viewership records since the moment she entered the league. Now, there is a significant complication with this part of the story that is absolutely worth flagging. Caitlin Clark has a well-documented, publicly confirmed endorsement deal with Nike. Nike signed her to a reported multi-year deal that was considered one of the largest in WNBA history for a rookie. A competing Reebok signature deal of the scale being described in these rumors would be a massive, verifiable news event, the kind of thing that gets reported by ESPN, Sports Illustrated, and every major sports outlet within hours of it happening. As of this video, no such reporting exists from verified sports journalism sources. So take the Reebok to Clark pivot with a significant grain of salt. The more grounded version of this story is the termination conversation, which, even as a rumor, carries real weight given everything that preceded it. What is not a rumor is Caitlin Clark's commercial dominance. That part is thoroughly documented. Whether or not any specific Reebok deal materializes, the broader context of why Clark's name keeps coming up in these conversations is entirely grounded in verified reality. Caitlin Clark has done something genuinely rare in the WNBA. She has functioned as a rising tide that lifts the entire league's boat while simultaneously becoming the single most commercially valuable individual player the league has ever seen. The numbers attached to her arrival are not rumor or hype. They are documented, verified, and frankly staggering. WNBA games featuring Clark have drawn television ratings that rival some NBA regular season matchups. Arenas that historically struggled to sell out were selling out before she even took the court for the first time. Merchandise bearing her name and number moved faster than the league was prepared to handle, and her jersey became one of the best-selling jerseys in the entire league's history within weeks of going on sale. From a pure corporate standpoint, Clark represents something brands spend decades trying to find, an athlete whose personal story, playing style, social media presence, and cultural moment all align perfectly to create maximum commercial appeal across the widest possible demographic. She brings in casual fans, she brings in younger viewers, she brings in consumers who have never watched a WNBA game in their lives but who feel connected to her journey. That kind of reach is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable.
Nike clearly understood this when they signed her. The reports of their deal being historic for a WNBA rookie reflect exactly how the market assessed her value. Reebok, or any other brand in a similar position, would logically be looking at Clark as the benchmark against which any investment in women's basketball is measured. Not because of anything political or personal, but because the data on her commercial impact is unambiguous. This is the context that makes the Carrington to Clark rumor so believable to so many people, even without verified confirmation. In a world where Clark's commercial value is documented and enormous, the idea that a brand would pivot from controversy toward her makes intuitive sense. That's why the rumor gained the traction it did. Here's where this story moves beyond gossip and into something that actually matters for the future of the WNBA. The loudest conversation buried inside all of this noise is about accountability. Not just Carrington's accountability, though that's part of it, but the WNBA's accountability for how it handles player conduct and athlete accountability in the broader sense of understanding that professional sports is a business ecosystem, not just a competition. The point that keeps surfacing in commentary from people across the political and social spectrum is this: players who hold sponsorship deals are not just representing themselves on the court.
Every flagrant foul, every charged social media post, every public controversy creates ripple effects that extend far beyond the basketball floor. Brands absorb those ripples, and brands respond to those ripples the way all businesses respond to threats to their bottom line, by making decisions that protect their interests. This is not a new dynamic. It's the same dynamic that has ended careers across every major professional sport. It's the same dynamic that has toppled athletes with far bigger profiles and far more powerful representation than anyone currently in the WNBA. Corporate America has a very consistent track record on this. They will tolerate controversy up to a point, and when that point is crossed, the decision-making process is fast, cold, and final. What makes this particular moment feel different to a lot of people watching is the sense that the WNBA itself was absent from the accountability conversation. The criticism being leveled at the league's leadership, including pointed commentary from Fox News and others, centers on a perceived failure to take a firm, clear stance on the conduct that triggered this entire chain of events. When a league's own disciplinary process feels inadequate to fans, the vacuum gets filled by other forces. Sometimes that's the media, sometimes it's social media pressure, and apparently sometimes it's Reebok. Whether or not the specific details of the Carrington sponsorship situation are fully accurate, the underlying message that brands are now factoring player conduct and controversy into sponsorship decisions is real, documented, and will only become more pronounced as the WNBA's commercial profile continues to grow. In all of this, one of the most interesting subplots is what Sophie Cunningham didn't do. She didn't give a lengthy press conference. She didn't go on social media with a lengthy statement. She didn't engage in any kind of public back and forth that would have kept her at the center of a story in a way that could have easily made her look sympathetic, but also drawn her into the ugliest parts of the debate. She let the story exist without her fingerprints all over it. When reporters did catch up with her for comment on the broader situation, the brand rumors, the social media fallout, the commentary about what it all meant, her response, according to reports, was measured and pointed. The essence of it, brands want to align with winners and with people who carry themselves professionally. That's not a revolutionary statement, but delivered in this context, it landed with the weight of something that didn't need to be said loudly to be heard clearly.
There's something worth noting about the contrast that has emerged between the athletes at the center of this story. Carrington, by most accounts, is a talented basketball player. Her on-court capabilities are not what's under scrutiny here. What's under scrutiny is a series of choices, the foul, the threads post, the response to the response, that collectively created a narrative she may spend a long time trying to rewrite. Clark, meanwhile, has been almost entirely absent from the drama as a participant. She has not made statements about Carrington, she has not engaged with the sponsorship rumors, she has not positioned herself publicly as the beneficiary of someone else's downfall. She has kept playing basketball, kept breaking records, and let the commercial world make its own decisions about where to direct its money. That approach, staying focused on performance and letting your value speak for itself, is one of the oldest and most effective playbooks in professional sports, and in this particular moment, it has worked extraordinarily well for her. Step back from the individual players for a moment, because the bigger picture here is genuinely significant. The WNBA is at an inflection point. Commercial investment in the league is growing faster than it has in years. Viewership is up, media deals are expanding. Brands that previously ignored women's basketball are now actively competing for association with its biggest names. That's good news for the league, for the players, and for women's sports broadly. But growth comes with scrutiny, and scrutiny comes with accountability. When the WNBA was a league operating on smaller margins, smaller audiences, and smaller brand partnerships, individual controversies had a more contained blast radius. A viral foul or a charged social media post might generate a news cycle, but the corporate stakes were lower and the response from the business world was slower.
That has changed. As the commercial value of women's basketball rises, the behavior of its players becomes a higher stakes proposition for everyone involved. What's being speculated about with Carrington and Reebok, whether the specific details hold up or not, reflects a new reality for WNBA players. Your conduct on and off the court is now operating in an environment where brands have more to protect, fans have more platforms to organize on, and the gap between a controversy and a corporate consequence is narrower than it's ever been. This is the lesson that is quietly emerging from all the noise. Not that one player won and one player lost in some crude zero-sum drama, but that the commercial infrastructure surrounding women's basketball is now sophisticated enough and financially significant enough that it responds to player behavior the way it always has in the NBA and in other major professional leagues, with money and with decisions that don't wait for the league's disciplinary process to catch up. Players entering the WNBA in the coming years will be entering this environment. Their agents know it, their brands know it, and after this week, every WNBA player with a sponsorship deal knows it too. The game is bigger now. That means the stakes are bigger, and the corporations holding the checks have made it very clear they are paying attention. Here's the part that should make everybody think. The WNBA as an institution did not hand down the verdict that most people watching felt the situation deserved. The referees, the league office, the commissioner, none of them delivered the kind of clear, firm statement of consequences that would have made fans feel like the standard was being protected.
But something happened anyway. If the rumors circulating about Reebok's decisions are accurate, even partially, then what we may have witnessed is the marketplace functioning as its own disciplinary body, not through governance or official process, but through the cold arithmetic of brand value, consumer sentiment, and corporate self-interest. It's not justice in any formal sense. It's not fair in the way that a transparent, consistent disciplinary process would be fair. It is simply the market doing what markets do. And what should make everyone pause, fans, players, league executives, and brand managers alike, is that this process is invisible until it isn't. The conversations that reportedly happened inside Reebok's offices weren't broadcast. There was no announcement, no press release, no formal statement while the decisions were allegedly being made. By the time the rumor hit social media, the decision, if it happened, was already done. That's the world professional athletes now operate in. And Caitlin Clark, whether she sought it or not, has become the clearest possible example of what happens when an athlete's value is so undeniable, so thoroughly documented, and so commercially significant that the market treats them as the obvious solution to every problem. She didn't campaign for any of this, she just kept playing. Whether the Reebok story is entirely true, partially true, or an exaggerated version of something more complicated, the conversation it has generated is real. The questions it raises about player conduct, league accountability, and the growing commercial power of women's basketball are real. And the moment it represents, a moment when the business world weighed in on a controversy the league seemed reluctant to address, is absolutely real. Where this goes from here is anyone's guess, but one thing is clear. The WNBA is no longer operating in a space where controversy stays contained. The audience is too large, the brands are too invested, and the players are too visible for anything to stay quiet for long. The question now isn't whether this will happen again, it's which player, which brand, and which moment will be next. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think brand accountability is the right way for consequences to reach athletes when leagues fall short? And do you think the WNBA needs to take a harder look at how it handles player conduct before the next wave of corporate decisions is made for them? Let's talk about it below.